Welcome back. We are on the Cobalt again. It's been a while. We've been waiting for parts. They finally got here. So let's get to putting this thing back together. So this is not going to be a detailed walkthrough. We're just going to be hitting on some of the highlights. Most likely if you're doing a job this big, you'll have a manual yourself that you're following. But maybe you like to see some things visually done. So that's what this will be, some of the heavy, more important things you'll get to see visually. But again, if you're doing this, just follow your manual. It'll have all the torque specs and everything you need. Here's our shiny new crankshaft. Some things just to keep in mind, you want to make sure that it's exactly the same as the old one. Some important things are the crankshaft position sensor reluctor wheel. This is why 06 does not fit, because the reluctor wheels are different. So you cannot use an 06 crankshaft for an 08 Cobalt. They just don't match up. Biggest reason is that. Also, one thing to note is it comes with a protective coating on it to prevent it from rusting during storage. So we want to shine up anywhere that a bearing is going, anywhere where a seal might be rubbing on. We want to make sure that those are all cleaned off from that protective coating, and we're going to be using a special grease when we put all this together. I'll show you what that looks like. So on the old one, pardon the mess, we want to take off the flywheel, put that on, and anything else, we can leave that till last, but pretty much just the flywheel goes on, needs to be bolted and torqued, and then we'll go under the car, pull off the old main bearings, put in our new main bearings, and then same with our bearing cap. I think they call it a bed, a bearing bed. We'll pull those bearings off, put on our new bearings. I got the flywheel on the new crankshaft. There's a little hole here that lines up with the flywheel and the crankshaft. And then before you put the flywheel on, put the rear main seal on. This is a new rear main. Chevy does pretty good with their rear main seals, so if you want to reuse the old one, that's up to you. Let me show you. This is the old one. It's still, you know, nice and flexible and has some life left in it, but now's the time. Replace everything if you want. But that goes on first before the flywheel. Let's go under the car and prep that. All right, so under the vehicle, we just want to clean off the outer rim really good of any of the old silicone. That's really the only place that gets RTV is on the outside. The cap and stuff doesn't get any RTV here, but still wipe it down really good. To get the old bearings out, pretty much you could just push on them and you see how they move. If they don't move out that easy, then you could just get something and tap on it. Just be careful not to maul the side of the crankcase or anything. But that's pretty much it. They should come out fairly easy. Let me do another one over here. I see, like that one may not. Yeah, that one doesn't want to move. How about this far one? Yeah, see, this far one comes out just by pushing on it. So it's not too difficult. Here's another one. There we go. So I'll just get that one, this last one. But that's pretty much all the prep on this surface, is just cleaning up where the silicone's gonna go and taking the old bearings off and putting the new ones on. New ones should slip on just as easy. But if you need a little persuasion, you can just tap on it, get it to go in. Just in case you got your bearings all mixed up, the bearings with the holes in them, these are oil holes. They go up in the block. And then before we install them, we'll put Ultra Slick engine assembly lube. That way when the engine starts, it doesn't start dry. There'll be some lube there available for it. All right, same with the bottom piece. We want to just clean it off really good where the silicone's gonna go. Clean off in between where it's gonna mate to the block. Then we could put that engine lube on each one. Just put a big glob on it and rub it in. Go ahead, be liberal, it doesn't matter. Once the oil warms up and gets flowing, it'll all kind of blend in. And we're gonna do an oil change not too long after it's running. So, all right. So this is done. The underneath surface is done. We are pretty close to getting this crank back in. This is what we're using for our bearing cap. You can see right here, we got our bead around this side and then our bead around that side. The crank is in as far as just being held up there, so we're gonna slap this on from underneath, get the bolts in. It says finger tight for an hour, and then we can go ahead and torque it. All right, there we go, got our crank in. That was no joke. That took everything out of me to get that up there and in. I got just the perimeter bolts in. I don't have these cap bolts in yet. I'm waiting for the silicone to dry. I'll probably get that tomorrow. It took me about an hour just fighting this thing. I don't even know the trick. It was getting hung up on the transmission here. I think towards the back it was kind of getting hung up. And then just all my stuff over here, I was trying to fighting it. It was a mess. But finally got it. It's doable. It's a pain, but it is doable. All right, I'm gonna just bolt a couple to the transmission just so the engine is suspended and safe for the evening. I don't have to worry about anything, straps breaking or anything. So got the engine mount on and just one transmission bolt. That should hold it up. I'll be back probably either tomorrow or a couple of days from now. Not in a big hurry to get this done. It's kind of a back project. All right, there we go. We got the crank up for now. My hands are nasty. Crank is up. We're gonna leave it there. That's really the biggest part. Now everything else is just kind of slapping everything on. I don't have it torqued yet. I'll do that tomorrow. Just waiting for the silicone to dry. 2, also, if you accidentally messed up where the connecting rod caps go, which one goes on which rod, I'll show you that. They only fit on one. So you'll notice if it's backwards or if it's on the wrong one, it won't look right, and I'll show you that. All right, thanks for watching for now. For me, it'll be a couple days. For you, it'll be a couple seconds. See you on the next one, or see you in a little bit. All right, we are back. I was thinking about yesterday putting the crank back in. I think the ticket is to have the engine up as high as you can. I was fighting with the frame on the passenger side. Getting that bed plate up and in was really a struggle. I think if you have the engine up, you won't have that struggle. So it's just something to think about. I did use a jack to help. They are heavy. In a way, you're kind of pushing on the crank up and the bed plate at the same time. So it is a lot of muscle activity. I used a jack to help me towards the end. But anyway, so today we're gonna go ahead, torque down the bed plate and continue putting this thing back together. This engine has been sitting for a while with no oil in it, so I went ahead and just poured a little oil down the spark plug wells to lubricate the cylinder wall. I'll go underneath and move the piston up and down just a few times before connecting the connecting rod to the crankshaft. So I forgot to put the rod bearing on the connecting rod before putting the crankshaft on. I was like, oh no, but that's okay. It's not a big deal. You can do it after. You just have to get your connecting rod or piston down all the way, and then you can just put them in. Then we want to lube them up with that engine assembly lube. We'll do that to all of them, and then we'll put our caps on, and we'll put the bearings on the cap, and then put our caps on. If you get your connecting rod caps mixed up and you can't remember which one goes to which rod, that's okay. By design, the manufacturing process, these are broken off of the connecting rod, so they are a matched set. If you can see the jagged edge and just the way it looks, this will only fit on one connecting rod perfectly. If you have it backwards or if you have it on the wrong rod, you'll notice it because the cracks won't line up and it may wobble on the connecting rod. But once you have it on the right one, you'll go, oh, perfect, fits like a glove. So no fear there. So this is how I torque down my connecting rod caps. I put a mark on the bolt head and then go out 90 plus a little more would be about 100 degrees. Then I'll get my socket on here, turn it, tighten it until this mark lines up with that hash there, and then that's my additional 100 degrees because it's 18 foot-pounds plus 100. So that's how I do my degrees. So everything is torqued. We are ready for the oil pan. So we want to clean off any old gasket that we used to have on there. We're going to be using this Right Stuff 90-minute gasket maker for this gasket. All right, things are coming together really well. Just a little tip, that upper starter motor bolt, pretty challenging. With the alternator still out, it was easier to get a long extension behind the intake manifold. You can get it behind, then I can get my electric ratchet on it and then buzz it in, no problem. So just a little tip. Other than that, everything else is just going on pretty smooth, just the way it came off, no big deal. So I took the camshafts out and I'm just putting that assembly lube where the camshaft lays. I'll do the same with the caps. Before I lay the camshafts back in, I'm gonna run some oil, just pour a little oil all over these roller followers and everywhere. And it'll also trickle down into the crank, which is fine. Then we'll put the cams on. Again, I'll put that assembly lube on the cap, tighten it all down, and then we're good for setting our timing. All right, so I got the timing cover on. I didn't show it, I should have, but I took the pump off. On the back of the timing cover, there's little Torx bits, bolts. You pull all those off and the vane pump is inside the case. So I took mine all apart, cleaned it up real good, and then again, put that assembly lube all over it. So we're good here. We're ready for the crank pulley to be put on. And I believe everything underneath is complete. All right, so I was trying to put that bolt through for the automatic tensioner. If you did what I did, I accidentally dropped it in between in the frame. If you do that, don't panic. At your local auto parts store, this is what I had to buy. That's the part number. This is what it looks like. And you can get it to bend and snake it out from under there. I was kind of worried that I would have to go to the junkyard and get another bolt, and I wouldn't be able to finish this today. But we got it, so we can finish putting this back together and fire it up. All right, there she is running. Whew, it is smoking. All right, there she is cruising down the highway. No check engine light. Runs really good. But also because of this running out of oil at one point, I want to make sure that the oil pump is doing its job, getting oil to the head. Yes, the oil light does go out, but I just want to make sure that every little lobe is being lubricated. So how I'm going to do that, I have the ignition coils back in, plugged in. We're going to start it up and just make sure that all our lobes are oiled. So the mass airflow sensor is not plugged in. It may start and stall, that's okay. We just want it running just enough to get that oil flow. Let me pull you in closer. So can you see down inside there? All of those are getting nice and lubricated. That's what we want to see. Even down in there, nice and lubricated. Now I am making a mess. That's okay. This is educational. You can even see the timing chains getting lubricated. So the oil pump's doing what it should. Hopefully some of this information was helpful. Not a walkthrough, just some tips and some pointers. I imagine if you're doing this yourself, you have a manual that you'll be following anyway. So this vehicle is now the shop's vehicle. So hopefully in the future, we'll be running some experiments and learning some stuff about sensors, fuel delivery, and things like that. What makes an engine tick? What happens if things go wrong? Hey, we got a car to run some experiments. So looking forward to those videos. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe. See you on the next one.